This is Jonathan Yates with HBCU Gameday Network. Welcome to From the Front Porch with Tonia Walker from Bluefield College. A.D. Walker, thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Good morning. I'm so glad to be with you, Jonathan.
The whole premise of this show is based by a statement by Dr. Wallace Lowe, the president of the University of Maryland, who said that the athletic department is so important to the branding of a university that it's the front porch. Do you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I believe that most who really learn and are attracted to many of the colleges and universities around the country are connected by way of athletics. It's the exposure and the visibility that athletic teams and programs bring about throughout the country. I share that as much as possible so that our student athletes and our staff realize that we are a part of the brand of the institution, and it's how we present, it's how we represent the college that will pique that interest in the community.
Now, you were the athletic director at one of the legendary HBCUs for sports, Winston-Salem. How did you bring about making that the front porch of that legendary college?
Yeah, so, really it's about, a lot of it is relational, bringing about that connectivity with the community, making sure that we're very visible, creating the brand of our athletics program that really depicts the greatness of our college and institution. When a student athlete or when a team travels for competition, the name of the institution across their jersey, whether you're local, whether you're regional, or whether you're in national competition. And so the greater we were and the more exposure that we could bring about around the country really galvanize and energize people to want to be a part of what we were doing. So the creation, once we recreated that brand and created an opportunity for others to really see who we were and what we were about, it really increased the interest in the institution. The year that we went to the national championship in football and we finished as the runners up, our enrollment increased, applications increased, I'll say it that way. And so, yes, athletics is definitely the front porch of an institution, and many people hear about a university or a college by way of sport, more so than academics or the band or any other type of affinity group.
Now, Winston-Salem had my third favorite basketball player of all time as a graduate, Earl Monroe. Would alumni like him and others be very active in recruiting and other necessities for the school?
Absolutely. And we've utilized Earl to help us tell the story. And that's really what it's all about. We've done the same with Stephen A. Smith, who is an alum of the university. When Big House Gaines was on this side of heaven, then surely we hung our hats on him, and he was able to really help us, reach and teach and galvanize others to be a part of what we did. The same with Bill Hayes, the legendary football coach. And so it really takes a village. It's about sharing the story as we're creating the story. Talking about what the needs are of the institution, those that have been successful and could be synonymous with the university, to have them help us in telling the story and to get people interested in what we were doing.
And now you're the first woman athletic director at Bluefield College. How is that working out?
Absolutely. The first female, the first minority, and actually the first full-time athletics director. It is working out really well. I believe that it's a great fit for me. The vision that I am casting for my student athletes and the program as a whole, of course, change, it takes time. It takes some grace, because many things that I've brought about are very different for the culture and very different from what the student athletes had been accustomed. But overall, things are going very well. The one thing that I would say is that the temperature here in Bluefield is very different than it is in North Carolina. And so this morning I'm freezing.
Hey, so you've checked just about every box there is in college sports: All-American player, athletic director. So do you notice more and more students coming to you and saying, how do I follow your footsteps into becoming an athletic director?
I think the whole sport management and sports administration, has grown since the time that I graduated. And I graduated and got my master's in sports administration from Old Dominion. But I think the opportunities exist more for women in particular. I think we've done a pretty decent job in exposing those opportunities to women. I am a former board member of Women Leaders in Collegiate Sports. And through that, it's about opening avenues, creating those opportunities for women, telling the story of how we are of impact and how we are being placed around the country. Now, the needle has moved somewhat, but it hasn't moved far enough. I would say, and I'm not looking at numbers per se, but the last time I checked, I was one of about 30 minority women across the country who serve in this capacity. So yes, still room to grow, but we are making strides. We're putting processes and procedures in place to make sure that women do know that there's a place for them in this arena. Opportunities that I can have to speak with various groups, whether it be sport management classes, whether it's mentoring. I always have the opportunity to really share my path of success and to share how others can become very entrenched in the arena of athletic administration.
Now, based on your success as an athletic director, Dr. Carla Williams at UVA, Dr. China Jude at the University of Wyoming, have you noticed more and more females coming to ask how do they follow in your footsteps?
I have. And like I said, there's just a lot more exposure for women and opportunities that are given. And so that's what I always say. If you give us an opportunity, we can make it happen. But it's the opportunity that some institutions, unfortunately, or conferences haven't really opened up to women. But we are doing a much better job, and that really moves the needle with respect to women in the profession.
Now, if I was a college student and came to you and wanted to know what it was like to work my way up the ranks in college sports administration, I said, A.D. Walker, what's your story? Well, how do you go about it? What would you tell them?
Yeah. So, I believe so much is founded on relationships and networking. I cannot help anyone unless I know truly what it is that they aspire to do. I am more than willing to assist. I'm more than willing to tell my story. For me, my story is a little different in that I did not graduate with my undergraduate thinking that I'd even be working in the athletics profession.
Oh, really? So
I graduated. Yeah, I graduated with a degree in speech pathology, thinking that I would be helping kids and I would be essentially a speech teacher. But I always share that it's not about who you know, but who knows you and how they know you. And so at that time, it was my senior year of college. And our PA announcer for basketball asked me to stay behind and play on a summer league softball team. And I said, well, if you find me a job or something to do, then surely I'll stay behind. And I did. And he put me in touch with the CIAA and Commissioner Leon Carey. And going in as an intern, just a little part-time job for me over the summer, is where I really discovered my passion. And it was almost like the blinders came off for me because I did not even consider or realize a job doing what I really love to do. And that was sports. I've been a sports fan and athlete for 44 of my 48 years. So how fitting to work and to build a career around what I love to do. And so that was the beginning of my career. From there, really just networking, really sharing what I aspired to do, doing the extra to make sure that I was noticed, surrounding myself with people who had been successful in the industry, doing what I needed to do for that professional development and joining professional organizations, being able to speak and network and really learn all that there was at the heart of athletics administration, and really developing my own philosophies around my love for sport and assisting younger athletes matriculate, graduate, and then prepare them for success beyond their college days. And so I would just share, your story may not be like my story, but truly I think that there are some components of my story that could be helpful. And at the core of it, it's all relational. It's not necessarily, as I said, who knows you, not necessarily who you know, but who knows you and how they know you.
Now, that's the favorite part of my doing these interviews for HBCU Gameday. It's what I call, what was your Robert Johnson moment? When did you put on that striped suit and meet the devil at Crossroads and go from being a player into administration? So let's flip on now and put on your AD cap again. So my cousin's a pilot for Delta, and Jay always says the first rule for being a pilot is fly the plane. What's the first rule for being an athletic director?
I would say relationships. Sometimes it means breaking out of your shell if you're an introvert, but it's about meeting people, networking, understanding how there are opportunities to build within that relationship. Um, it's about your opportunity to formulate those relationships and tell the story of the institution, to share the needs of your program, to see and to seek who can assist you in moving your program forward. It's about coaching, and all of that is so relational. Coaching of your team, coaching up oftentimes of your university president or chancellor, coaching out to the alumni so that everyone understands the direction that we're trying or attempting to go. So I would say relationships.
Do you think your leadership style has changed over your decades in college sports administration?
Um, I think so. I believe one, I'm not a micromanager. I'm a servant leader. And so with that, I believe in a shared governance and an opportunity for um, my administrators and those who are under me to really chime in and give their opinion and what should happen or how things could happen, and make suggestions. I totally own the fact that I know I must make a decision, but I'm always interested in hearing the opinions or the suggestions of others, because it helps formulate my ultimate decision of what I need to do. And oftentimes when you do that and you sit around with a whiteboard, it just brings out many more ideas or opportunities or directions that you can go. Um, with respect to changing my leadership style, I would say that I'm much more of a delegator than I was in the past. Trusting of my staff. I had to learn that the hard way, because I have been in a position where I was totally burned out. And while I thought I was being um, trusting and I was delegating, I really was doing a poor job. And so I've learned over the years to be a little more trusting, to back off. And although we may not do things the exact same way, but to have confidence and be comfortable with the same end result being realized, as opposed to the details may be a little different than I would have done them, as long as we meet at the same place at the end. And I'm very comfortable with that.
Now, when I interviewed Harry Stinson at Lincoln University and Dr. Ed Scott at Morgan State, I got to watch them firsthand with how they interacted with their students. For example, Mr. Stinson, he was comforting a father whose baby boy was, coming there to play football. Of course, the baby boy was about 6'6", 320 pounds, but, to his father, he was always going to be his baby. How do you let those parents know that their child is in good hands with your athletic department? I mean, let's face it, most college athletes are teenagers away from home for the first time.
Right. And so, like I said again, it's just very relational for me. What I have done in the past, and I will implement the same thing this upcoming fall, is when parents are bringing their student athletes in, and I typically would it along with their parents, to assure them that they're in good hands, to speak to our pursuit of excellence, to speak to our goals around academics, because it's our first and foremost priority for our student athletes to graduate. So we talk structure and what we have in place to support the student athlete in graduating. We talk about athletics excellence and the goal that we desire every student athlete to leave as a champion. And when I say champion, it's not necessarily always on the playing field, while we would hope that, but also a champion in the classroom and a champion in the community. And so here at Bluefield College, my theme is be excellent. I just finished speaking to a group of student athletes and students about what it means to be excellent. It's how we show up each and every day, and it becomes our who, and it defines what we do. And so those types of things are spoken before the parents, so they have an understanding of our why, of our how. And we always seek the support of our parents, so that they know when they drop their kid off what is expected, what is in store, and we're going to love on them. And sometimes that's tough love, but we always ask for that support, and it's typically been a happy marriage as we've gone through that process.
Now, speaking of recruiting, there was a very good piece on HBCU Gameday about five-star recruits now starting to visit HBCUs for basketball. Joshua Clark from California, Maku Marker from Canada, both visited Howard University on their visits. What would you tell a parent why their five-star recruit's child should go to Howard University rather than Duke, rather than Kentucky, or another highly ranked school like that in sports?
Yes. So for me as an HBCU graduate, and most of my career has really evolved around, up until now, around the pursuit of HBCU. It's really about, it really has defined who I am. It's helped me to shape my philosophies. It's allowed me to have a genuine concern and interest for the student athletes who have come. It's really developed me as a person. And I would challenge, as I did with my own two children who also attended HBCUs in their first 4 years of college to get their bachelor's, to really get your foundation there, to really get a feel for your culture, to have a garner an understanding of who you are amongst your people, and to really support those institutions that were developed so that we would have an opportunity. And I found pure joy and satisfaction in that. And I would say the same thing: bring those talents to an HBCU to help create the visibility that we like to see, to help us sell the institution, to pour into back into the HBCU. And so that's what I would share.
Now, when you speak of visibility, the football coach at Princeton said he'd like to see the Ivy League start to play HBCUs in bowl games. What do you think of that?
Hey, I would love it. I think that would be an opportunity that would be welcomed by probably every AD that is at an HBCU. It would be historic, but one that would be really welcomed by all.
So, hey, it'd be great to see the HBCUs bringing in five-star recruits. It'd be great to see the HBCUs beating Ivies in bowl games, but there's some challenges ahead. We all know what just happened in California with paying athletes and letting them benefit from their images. What would happen to your school and other HBCUs if you had to start paying the athletes?
Quite honestly, I don't. There are many of us or many HBCUs who really don't have the revenue or the support to support something of that magnitude. I am from the old school, and this is just Tonia's opinion, but I believe that exchange for you coming to my institution to help create the visibility that we'd like to see, to help broaden the brand and to grow the brand of the institution in exchange for your degree is our payment for you. That is just my belief. Now, I do agree also, or disagree, however you would phrase this, that in the off season, perhaps during camps and clinics, student athletes should be able to use their name or use their likeness to create those revenue opportunities. But I just don't agree with paying them to play the sport that they've been recruited to play. I just don't.
Now, I used to teach at the University of Iowa, and I had 3 varsity athletes in my course. And they've got a great program out there under Gary Barta, and they could only complain about one thing, and that was the guacamole was not chunky enough at the fueling station. What would you say to someone who says that, college athletes are treated poorly based on your experience at Bluefield and your experience at Winston-Salem as a player? What don't they realize? I had the Ed McLaughlin, the athletic director from VCU, on my show, and he said we spend over $400,000 a year per basketball player. They fly private jets everywhere. They stay in a first-class hotel, and they can't eat all the food that we give them. What don't people realize about how well you treat your athletes?
Yes, I think that really depends from institution to institution and what funding and support are in place. Certainly, and I'll speak more from Winston-Salem State because I spent more time there. I don't think people realize the support that we really build so that student athletes are successful. The numerous meetings and conversations and funding that we put in place to ensure that they graduate, from tutoring to academic support and all of the help that goes around making sure that they can matriculate and ultimately graduate. It's up to that student athlete to take advantage of those things, but certainly the structure and the support is in place. I don't think people realize how much it costs to actually fund a full athletics program and all that goes into it. Many times, people or fans will come and they'll sit in the stands and they just see the game. At the end of the day, that's the end result of everything. No one or many don't consider how much does it cost to really outfit that football player who has to have that specialized helmet and cleats worn by a certain brand or uniform or a brace on a knee.
In my class at Iowa, they wore their uniforms and their hooded sweaties and everything else to every class. So, you provide the wardrobe too.
Absolutely. So wardrobes and, whatever those travel uniforms are, nobody considers what does it take to really make sure that we're offering a locker room, that a 5-star locker room or facilities that we can compete in and day out, and what that maintenance and upkeep can be. Nobody thinks about the fact that we are now paying officials and it's not coming out of our conference dues. So it's the little things that go into and that drive the expenses of the athletics department, and how crucial it is for alumni, especially of schools that are smaller, that don't necessarily have the resources, to provide that quality experience. It's very crucial for the alumni to play a part and to give back and to do their part. The misnomer is at a state institution in North Carolina is that it's funded by the state, and that's absolutely not true. And I don't think people realize that.
When I interviewed Judy Rose, the athletic director for UNCC, a state-funded university in North Carolina, she said the biggest difference now between when she played is they would travel by school bus at night with a flashlight, and this is to show you it was in the South. They'd have $1 to spend at Hardee's for dinner.
Wow.
What's the biggest change since you were playing?
Since I was playing, when I played, my institution traveled together. So I played basketball. We all traveled on one bus. We went and we supported the men, and most often than not, the travel is totally separate. We could be going to the same place, playing right behind one another, but there are two modes of transportation. Some schools are now starting to roll back into, because of the shortfall of income and funding, they are starting to go back to that model. However, that's probably the biggest thing that I can see that's different from the time that I played at this point.
So let's go back to the 5-star recruits again for an HBCU. There was a good book called Beartown about a legendary hockey team in Sweden. And the coach said the thing that a coach has to do is get a great player who just plays for the love of hockey and get to play him for the team. How do you, as an athletic director, get a great player to not only play for the team, but play for the school, if you get the 5-star recruit coming your way?
Yeah, I think honestly that it has to be mission fit. It has to fit with the direction of the institution and of the program. Quite honestly, it would be difficult. But if you have the story to sell, if you can sell what the mission is, the direction of the institution, have a plan to grow and how you want to utilize that player, that's where I would start. What our offerings are, how we are here at Bluefield College, a small college tucked away in the Appalachian Mountains that's very family friendly. We love our students, our faculty and staff. We care about the athletics program, and we're moving things in the right direction. That would be the platform that I would start.
So let's finish up and go back to my cousin for the last question. My cousin was a fighter pilot in the Air Force before he joined Delta. And he always said the best thing about being in the Air Force is that when they built a new base, they would always put the golf course in first and then the runways next. What's your favorite thing about being an athletic director?
I can speak to all of the championships that I have been a part of building while at Winston-Salem State. I can speak to the successes that I foresee here at Bluefield College. But my number one championship is graduation. The best thing about being an athletics director is using that passion for sports, helping to grow, groom, and shape that student athlete in their infancy as a freshman, and watch them matriculate through their senior year and walk across that stage. That's my championship.
Lady Walker, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure.
This is Jonathan Yates with HBCU Gameday Network. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.